What made Halo successful at the beginning? What is the legacy of Halo and what's the soul that we want to bring forward?
We knew we had to make a change in order to take us into the future.
It's a chance to make amends, to rectify mistakes. And it starts here.
It feels like a new beginning for the studio in a lot of ways, and I think that's pretty rare.
Do you see what I see? So much potential.
It was best in class. That's what Halo was when it first was released, and that's what Halo needs to be again.
How do we set our studio up best to go deliver on that?
Let's not do that again.
I did try to tell you it was a bad idea.
Hey, so there's a lot going on with Halo at the moment, but we haven't really got to hear much about it lately, and it's left lots of room for speculation and rumors, some baseless, some not. But I will say with the whole Halo Studios situation and the practically guaranteed CE remake in the works, it's got me wondering, are the 343 games even really canon anymore? Or maybe a better question, were they ever really canon in the first place?
What?
So this might sound a little controversial, because honestly, what's not controversial in the Halo community at this point? I bring it up mainly because of two reasons. First is the consistent stream of negative press surrounding all of 343's mostly failed attempts to revive that Halo spirit in the Halo franchise. And also slightly because of that one shot of only the Bungie games in the A New Dawn announcement video when they talked about Halo's rich history.
Because somebody thought to take that 4-second panning shot of the 5 Halo games that I was audio director on, I know them well. They decided to pan those 5 games and pan across them and say, this is the promise of the future. 15 years of 343 have just been eliminated.
At this point, I wouldn't be shocked if they used this opportunity to just start fresh entirely and leave the 343 name and games behind.
See you, chump.
Because here's the thing, and I think Halo Studios knows this, hence Halo Studios, but the fatal flaw with the 343 era of Halo is that they fundamentally misunderstood the established rules that Bungie gave their trilogy that made Master Chief and his surrounding stories what they were.
Were it so easy.
Okay, I can already sense some of you gearing up to comment about how 343, now Halo Studios, has already declared that these games were canon at the time they were released, and that makes them canon, or at least made them canon. But upon further inspection, I think a lot of us, myself included, have been using the term canon completely wrong.
You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
So let's dig into it. The word canon, or canonical, evolved from the Latin word canonicus, preceded by the Greek word canon, again, meaning law, accepted principle, or rule. As a student of religion myself, Christianity specifically, the first thing that comes to mind is the biblical canon. This is the term used when discussing which books from antiquity are considered inspired by God, or inerrant. So even though they're written by many different ancient writers, they are each written according to ecclesiastical law. There's a certain quality that each one of these books must possess for them to be considered canon to the biblical library. If it doesn't follow these laws, then it is deemed apocryphal, or even heretical. Now, what's interesting about this, among other things, is that canon doesn't only apply to writings. It can also apply to music. When a piece of music is considered canon, the song may have subsequent lines that reflect the original in some clear and direct way, such as mirroring a line of music, playing the same line backwards, or just repeating a line over and over again. In a song like this, no line is completely new. It sort of rhymes with what came before it.
It's like poetry, so if they rhyme, every stanza kind of rhymes with the last one.
A prime example of this is actually Halo's music. If you listen to Marty's original scores for each of the games he worked on, you'll see elements of the original themes present throughout each game. Even in Halo Reach, which is pretty set apart in its soundtrack, still retains elements from the original theme. Another classic example of this would be Pochbell's Canon in D major. In this piece, we begin with one line, and then subsequently repeat the same line on top of itself, over and over again. Because this piece is canon, we would be able to identify if a line came along that didn't fit in with the rest. So taking this back to the canon of Halo for a second, what exactly does this mean? Does it mean that every game or book that follows essentially has to follow the same plot and story beats as what came before it? Well, no, of course not. If that were the case, Halo 2, 3, and definitely ODST and Reach would not be canon either. It's not that it has to be exactly the same, but just that it marches to the same essential beat. In musical terms, the initial melody sets the rule. For us, this is Halo CE, and whatever comes next must follow this rule in order for a piece to be considered canon. Everything has rules. Rules help us make sense out of the world around us, and this is especially important in establishing good fiction, because good fiction speaks of truth, and truth has rules.
Smokey, this is not Nam, this is bowling. There are rules. Hey.
So the question is, what are the rules established in Halo CE and built upon in Halo 2 and 3 that make Halo Halo? Well, after playing through the games again, talking with Marty and several other Halo YouTubers, including Leperlarden.
Hello there, guys, gals, ladies and gentlemen.
This is what I came up with. First of all, Master Chief is you. Now, this is something Marty O'Donnell pointed out to me when we spoke about his experience playing Halo 4. He explained that part of Bungie's strategy when writing Chief was not only that he didn't say much, but also that what little he did say was obvious and quick, like something you would probably say yourself. For example, when you're in a ship without a gun and the Covenant invade, the first thing you're probably thinking is,
I need a weapon.
Or if Arbiter looks at a flood ship and asks if it's full of more brutes, you'd probably say,
worse.
And when you're about to deliver a bomb back to the Covenant ship in one of the most iconic cutscenes of all time, and Cortana asks you,
what if you miss?
Everyone holding that controller is thinking the same thing.
I won't.
This makes the Chief feel like us. Chief says what I would say, and he thinks what I think, and all his silence leaves enough room for me to project my own personality onto him. But starting with Halo 4, right out of the gate, Master Chief is having whole conversations and exposition dumps with Cortana throughout every mission. He's saying things that I would never say, thus he's developing a personality separate from me entirely. Now maybe you like that personality, or maybe you don't, but regardless, he's become his own person separate from the player. Now we feel more like a tourist simply watching the story rather than being an actual part of it. Now, rule number 2 is pretty key, and that's that Chief does not lose. As a therapist myself, I tend to think of stories in psychological terms, so if we were to interpret this psychologically in its deepest sense, we would see that Chief pretty clearly plays the archetype of the hero in those games. This means that he may struggle, he may get knocked down, but ultimately he is never down for the count, as it were. He'll be getting right back up to jump into the action without a second of hesitation, because Chief isn't just a soldier that happens to win, he is literally defined by his ability to win every single time. This is why Cortana chose Chief in the first place.
But you had something they didn't. Something no one saw but me.
His luck is synonymous with who he is, because he's not a real person in the typical sense, he's more like hyper-real, or like super real. He's who we could be, and who we are when we're at our best. The reason we're given for this is almost a throwaway. We hear the term the last Spartan, and maybe a few rumblings about what that might mean, but for the most part, we take it for granted. Like, we get it, this guy's a badass through and through, no exceptions. So when 343 takes the helm and suddenly Chief gets tossed around by the Didact like nothing, followed by his debilitating PTSD flashbacks of Cortana, which lead him to her ultimately getting the best of him in Halo 5, and then again with their very next installment, immediately, helplessly being pummeled into the ground, tossed around like a ragdoll, and thrown off his own ship by Atriox. All I'm saying is that if that's your plan with each game, the fans are gonna feel a bit of a vibe shift, you know?
What is it, Peterson?
I'm not sure. I feel a disturbance.
Okay, so rule number 3 is less specific to Master Chief and really any particular story or plot detail, and instead it's just more of a way of deciding anything in creating a Halo game if you're Bungie, and that's the rule of cool.
Cool. Talking with Marty and talking with former Bungie devs, their whole design philosophy for making these games was just let's make the funnest, coolest thing that we can. The rule of cool was what prevailed, which is why we got stuff like dual wielding and boarding vehicles and whatever else. Mechanics that on the surface you think would be too hard to implement in a game, but then you're like, nah, we're doing this because it's cool.
And the thing is, it's applicable for everything. We don't have to make multiplayer make sense with our current campaign plot. Boom, playable elites. Why? Cause it's cool. For the story especially, that's also why Chief doesn't lose. This is a power fantasy game. Chief is a badass because that's who we aspire to be and who we want to be, and fill those shoes when we play as him. Because it's cool. Now back to the thing about Cortana playing Chief and being evil. This is rule 4, by the way. Anyway, Cortana's relationship with Chief is never clarified in the Bungie games. Maybe you think that Chief and Cortana had more of a romantic relationship, or maybe you thought they were just really good work partners. But either way, it wasn't spelled out which interpretation was right. And also, they only knew each other a couple months, by the way. Just a side note. So I get what they were doing with Halo 4, and if that story were all by itself, I'd say it's a fairly good story, and I wouldn't have anything to critique about this aspect of it. But the problem is, it's not by itself. And since we know more about how Master Chief and Cortana's relationship has been portrayed in the past as vague and certainly never explicitly romantic, the clearly romantic dynamic between them in Halo 4 only pushes the story further and further away from the characters we knew and loved.
There is no clear direction from Halo 4 to Infinite. Every new game is it's its own contained story, which is fine, but also not what you really should be setting out to do when you're making a new trilogy, I think.
Well, and that's kind of the thing about the 343 games in general, is that each one of them feels like such a hard left turn from the game that came before it. I mean, Halo 4 was such a hard left turn from the Bungie games in general, but especially Halo 3 with the art style and the story. And then after that backlash and after Cortana's death, Halo 5 just feels like they didn't really care about Halo 4 in the same way that Halo 4 didn't care about the Bungie games, and then it went in a new direction. And then Halo Infinite, of course, was a soft reboot of the series, and now we're having what looks like a complete, reboot of 343 in general. Ultimately, it almost feels like it was just the kind of the era of left turn after left turn and just trying new things that were completely different from what came before it.
I would love to see a sequel to Halo Infinite, because I think that game was the closest we've gotten to hitting the right marks that a Halo game needs to hit. Part of me also is like, did 343 know what they were doing with that story? Because it almost feels like they didn't, and maybe that's why they want to go down the path of a CE remake, is to just like wipe the slate clean and go back to the start.
And also, while we're talking about crazy left turns, Cortana's not supposed to be evil, and she's not even that sentimental. All of the worries she has about what it feels like to be human, or to actually touch someone like Chief, doesn't sound anything like the Cortana that came before. I've heard people defend this with the whole logic plague argument instead of 343's misunderstanding of rampancy and just trying to make her more emotional, but honestly, to me, this just comes off as kind of a lazy argument, like nanobots changed Chief's armor kind of thing. It never really comes into play in the actual story of the game itself, and if you're gonna make a character change that dramatic, the plot kind of needs to revolve around this point. Like, Tobey Maguire doesn't just go all emo in Spider-Man 3 for no reason, right? It's because he has Venom on him, which is like the main antagonist of the film. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Rule number 5 is Halo is mysterious. So I actually made a whole video on Halo's mystery and why it works so well in the Bungie games, but the cliff notes are this. There is nothing you can write that will be better than the audience's imagination. So writers who want to captivate the people experiencing their story will use that to their advantage. You see this most frequently in horror movies, keeping their monsters hidden either mostly or completely in darkness, leaving your anxious mind to fill in the gaps. And this is what Bungie did with the Forerunners. See, in Bungie's world, the Forerunners were not a name. They were just a placeholder for this great mystery race. We were never supposed to know them. Throughout the original trilogy, each mission that took place on a Halo ring was practically dripping with that mystery and the ghost of what came before. Before. Like, Forerunner. Yeah, that's the idea. Anyway, the point is, we stepped out into a story called Halo, having literally no idea what the Halo rings were even there for. All of the mysterious transcriptions on the walls, or the giant cathedral-like underground tunnels, would continue to add to this grand and holy mystery of Halo and who or what came before to make all this. So adding the Forerunners into the story as Halo 4 did, and especially the way that they did it, is a big no-no if you're trying for any kind of narrative consistency.
There was a disconnect. Like, there was too much that was different from what came before, and I respect the ambition and the boldness of 343 to go like, this is Halo now, this is what it looks and sounds and plays like. But when you have such a massive legacy that you're continuing on from, and arguably the best video game of all time with Halo 3, you'd think you would ease into that a bit more. Like, tell the big, bold, and ambitious story, but like at least keep some of the core aesthetics and stuff more similar. Because that's really what took me out of Halo 4 playing it the first time, was just how different everything looked. And I understand, new high fidelity textures and all the rest, and wanting to slap extra detail on things, but sometimes it's just not necessary.
Well, and that's the problem when you add all these unnecessary details to a story like Halo that's kind of known for its mystery. You start to lose that cohesion from one game to another. It doesn't feel like there's a connection between the original trilogy and Halo 4.
Well, there isn't a literal connection.
No, Walter, face it, there isn't any connection.
So this next rule goes along with the last, so I'll call it Rule 5.5, and that's that Halo is religious. And no, I don't mean that it's supposed to be like God's not dead or anything and have a preacher come out and deliver a message about Jesus at the end of the game, but just that Halo has religious undertones coursing through almost every aspect of its artistic veins. From the monk chants at the opening, to the cathedral-like architecture, to the actual religious structure of the Covenant and their language of the things like prophets, the Great Journey, and so on. I actually did a video on that topic too if you want to hear me go more into depth on Halo's religious narrative. There's plenty to talk about, but the point is, the story is pretty married to its religious symbolism and language. Honestly, they act as the beating heart of the original trilogy, and they're sorely missing from every game that came after it.
Look how they massacred my boy.
Okay, so moving on. Rule number 6, and this is the last rule. Halo is a military game. I think this is one of the biggest problems I have with 343's games, but mostly Infinite, is that they seem to struggle to connect their stories to the larger world of Halo. Like, in Infinite, we don't even know what's going on with the UNSC. We never really see or hear from anyone like we did before. We set up little outposts and stuff, and Echo 216 will bring us vehicles, but we don't even know where he's getting those. And it's definitely not clear what killing Escharum or Atriox will do for us to get back to the UNSC. We only fight them because Chief just has a whim that that's how we're gonna get home, but he never really explains why.
Our only way home is straight through the heart of the Banished.
See, in Bungie's trilogy, it was always clear exactly where we were going and why we were fighting. You are a soldier carrying out orders to protect our planet, along with the galaxy, from the aliens who want to kill us. It's that simple. And I think a big part of the disconnect here with the 343 games was that Master Chief had been gone for so long that the military had moved on from him. By the time the Chief reconnects with the UNSC, they don't look like the UNSC we knew at all. There's no Miranda, no Johnson, no Lord Hood, nobody we can connect with. As a result, Chief is kind of on his own. And he actually doesn't follow orders, like direct orders, if he doesn't feel like it or they don't fit his plan.
No, sir.
And this is just not the Chief we knew. He's not a rebellious figure that acts on his own whims. And pitching him against his own military just seems kind of weird and wrong. Then in Halo 5, the whole plot revolves around him defecting entirely to do whatever he wants and go find Cortana. This Chief is an emotional wreck, just going off of what he feels like in the moment, which is not like the Chief we knew before. Honestly, after everything he's been through in these 343 games, I don't understand why he hasn't been discharged already. I mean, don't get me wrong, Chief is my favorite character, but in the 343 games, this guy is directly disobeying commands, he's suffering from PTSD that interferes with his ability to complete missions, and he was freaking lost at space for years. Like, also, in this story, he's not even the last Spartan anymore, and they're not losing a war, so they really don't need him. It just doesn't make sense. We're playing as Master Chief because, like, his face is the moneymaker, not because this story makes sense to have Master Chief in it. Which leads me to my next point, which is that Master Chief wasn't meant to return after Halo 3. The reason Miranda, Johnson, and the rest don't return is because their stories were all tied up, more literally in some cases than others, but this is why I think Bungie chose to wrap up Master Chief's story in Halo 3 and start the spin-off route with ODST and Reach. They were ready to tell a different kind of story, and a story that Master Chief, as we knew him, really wouldn't fit into. He was too strong to play the more vulnerable part in ODST, and he was too much of a lone wolf for us to see him as the newest member of a team like Noble Team.
That lone wolf stuff stays behind.
If they had used Master Chief in those stories, we probably would have rejected those too. By letting him go and creating new characters, they were able to create new rules and a new beat to march along to. Marty made sure of that, quite literally, you know, because he makes the music. Why am I telling you this? I mean, if 343 decided to just go a different way with the Chief and change his personality and make him emotional or whatever, why does it matter? So, okay, when I first heard the term canon start blowing up in relation to video games and comic book movies, I remember thinking that it was a little bit silly, because especially as someone who grew up as a fundamentalist Christian, the term canon, as I understood it, just meant real. Like which book about Jesus was real and really happened in history, and which was just a made-up story.
For a second, I thought that was a real guy.
So when I heard people talking about which Star Trek film was considered canon, I was like, none of them, right? I mean, none of them really happened. They're not real. And I mention this because even though I was just mistaken, and canon isn't synonymous with the term real like I thought it was, I definitely think there's something missed with this line of thought I was using. Because yeah, Master Chief isn't real per se, like I can't find him in history or take a plane to find him somewhere in the world like I could with someone like you or me, but let's imagine for a second you were somewhere like Comic-Con, right? And you saw someone wearing a fluffy pink Hello Kitty-like cat outfit. And if you were to go up and ask them who they were dressed up as, and they told you, oh, I'm Master Chief, they would be wrong. Right? Like, it might seem kind of arbitrary or abstract, but Master Chief isn't a pink cat. Even though he's never really taken an actual breath in our universe, he still follows a set of rules and defining character traits that make him who he is, just like us. In the same way that a rock isn't a flower, Master Chief just isn't a cat. He may be fictional, but that doesn't mean that his character traits are infinitely malleable. If you made a Master Chief character that was pink and that did look like a cat, you could call it Master Chief, and that'd be fine, but that character would be entirely new. This is why we can recognize when we see something like the movie Joker with Joaquin Phoenix, that guy on screen isn't really the Joker. Now, he may look like the Joker, and we can call him the Joker, and he's got a great Joker laugh, But even if there's lots of recognizable traits of the Joker there, it's still not enough to convince us, right? Because the rules that make a Joker canon are deeper than a good laugh and some clown makeup. It's the fundamental principle that he follows, and the way he operates and what motivates him, and what his ultimate goals are. If you make something like Halo 4, for example, that not only changes the way Master Chief looks, but also the way he thinks, the way he talks, his goals, his ambitions, the fans will know that that's not really the Master Chief they knew, even if he's voiced by the same guy, which he almost wasn't, by the way, which is insane. Anyway, to sum up, the Master Chief of the Bungie games has become real to us. And it's more than just smoke and mirrors. I mean, if my son came to me and said, I want to be like Master Chief when I get older, I wouldn't think that it's silly. And I'd also know what he meant. Because the heroic traits of Chief, like sacrifice, dignity, hard work, optimism, and quiet badassery, are all real traits. Chief is real because he was written well. And changing him, changing what we know as canon, betrays that. And also, what the hell is up with those ugly-ass elites in Halo 4 and 5? Thanks to Labor Larden for coming on the channel and chatting about Halo with me for a while, and again, I want to reiterate that I actually enjoy the 343 games a lot, especially Infinite, and I don't mean this video to just dump on those games because I know making video games is not an easy feat, seriously. I just thought this would be a fun thought experiment to dive into with a potential reboot of the franchise on the horizon. But what do you guys think? Do you think there's some rules that I missed? Do you guys think 343 should be considered canon? Let me know in the comments below. And also lastly, I know I've been on a long hiatus from making videos because I actually became a father to a little Spartan of my own recently, and I've been busy trying to teach an infant how to play Xbox, and it's not easy because of the little hands. Anyway, I'm planning on making a lot of these more frequently, so stay tuned and let me know what topic you'd like me to dive into next. Thanks for watching.
This is Steve Downs, the voice of Master Chief, Spartan 117. Thank you for finishing this video on the meaning in between. Chief, out.